Greetings, Holy One. Ultimately, all of the power resides within you. Your intentions, your belief, therein lies the true power. The light is within you. You are the light. And the more that you know this, the more that you believe this, the more power that you have. And so, what many people discovered when they began to break away from large organizations, traditions, and particularly within the path of chaos magic, what individuals, what explorers of the mind, of the spirit, what they realized, what they proved, at the end of the day, what was truly significant, what was truly actionable intelligence, that was power, was your belief, was the individual's belief. Not so much the particulars of what they were believing in, but the mere fact that they believed with their full, entire capacity, heart, mind, and soul, that there was no incongruence, there was no discrepancies, there was no disintegration, that each individual was integrated in their belief. And the actual symbols of the belief, the actual words that they used, the images that they employed, the sigils, it wasn't so much the details, but the belief. And the greater the belief, the greater the conviction in the symbols employed, the sigils employed, the words intoned, the words uttered, the sounds expressed, the greater the belief, the greater the conviction, the greater the power throughout the nine worlds. And so ultimately, when you understand this grand cornucopia of choice among traditions, whether it be the Kabbalah or Christianity, Islam, whether you go all the way back to Egypt, and then if you go further back to Sumeria, and then still if you go all the way to the oldest knowledge on this planet, which is to be found within the Upanishads, the Vedas, the great epics of Vedic science, which ultimately that knowledge came from off-world. That knowledge, which details billions and billions of years of cycles, has its nexus point, has its origins on other planetary systems that was brought to this system by the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came and brought their knowledge. Whether you choose any of those traditions, ultimately the power lies within the realization that these are interfaces, that all of these vast traditions are not rivals, they are interfaces to the divine. Now, granted, it can be said when you understand human intention, human emotion, when you get into even further, more technical occult terminology such as egregores, when you begin to understand that your thoughts are energy, that they coalesce into what is known as the Akash or the astral, that there are clouds of energies, there are clouds of intentions, and those clouds of intentions and clouds of energies, those egregores that exist within the Akash that never ever leave because your thoughts are energy, they never deteriorate. They do lessen in potency though, but when you understand that these traditions, and the more that these traditions have input, focus, and when you align yourself with those traditions, well, then you become not, you step off your island and join the greater continent of humanity, the greater collective of humanity. So therein does lie the power of organized religion, of organized traditions, and people who align themselves with that. Yes, there is power to be realized in aligning yourself with tradition. But what the chaos magicians, what those solitary practitioners have found, you can come up with your own names, your own words, your own system. As long as you believe in that system, you will have power in your life. And if you choose to walk your solitary path, then so be it. But there is greater power in tradition. And I can tell you, I can share with you with utmost veracity, when I align myself with Yod He Vav He, the tetragrammaton, when I align myself with those sounds, those words, those concepts, I saw power manifest in my reality. In the days of the dark spiritual warfare, I employed those words, those sounds. I employed them to great effect. Yod He Vav He. And this also is known as the tetragrammaton. But I'm sharing with you the power of your words. I'm sharing with you that he who will observe these words shall align themselves with immortality. And so, ANKAR Yod He Vav He is an act of what I call quantum theurgy. And this is not uttering the name of God as devotion, but as quantum mechanics. And so it is helpful to have devotion. It's helpful to have your emotions involved in your belief and the mechanics of your words and those actions that you engage in. Certainly it is vastly helpful to be totally aligned, to have all of your systems in integration and working towards one intent. It's not merely the name of God, Yod He Vav He. This is a four-phase cosmogenic operator. Yod, Yad, you're referring to the source. When you take this singular awareness, this seed point of which your consciousness has its origin as a fractal, as the same nature of God in flesh, the word become flesh, Yod. So when you know that and you employ that sound in your environment, God is alive. Source is connected. And when you further express, hey, expansion into the field, that knowledge, that awareness, God, Yod, the point, the source, hey, expansion into the field of probability, the quantum matrix, the mind of God. VAW is the transmission, is the channel, the spinal current. This is the electromagnetic awareness of the God force being channeled into your awareness, into your environment. And hey, is the final manifestation, the stabilization into form. This is power that I'm sharing with you. And all the more so, the more you believe in the, not just believe, because that imparts some sort of faith, but I'm talking about knowledge, gnosis. I'm talking about realization of true power. And to observe this name is not to pronounce it outwardly, although I'm sharing that with you now, but to align one's internal architecture to this sequence. Immortality, he who knows thee, she who knows this, does not mean biological, the sense of immortality and biological permanence, but continuity of consciousness across configurations. Those who live through their ego are fragmented. It changes day by day. But when you know your source, when you know the seed, the fractal point, you become that source. This is a declaration of purpose. When you channel this God force source knowledge through your biological system, you're anchoring your intention and you activate creation in your world. This is power. ANKAR, Yod He Vav He is not a prayer. It is system initialization. And so there was a time when I would daily engage in this sound practice. I don't want to, call it a ritual, but this awareness, this knowledge created portals of peace, portals of direction, portals of grace. It created angelic support, powers from the hierarchies. I'm not talking about sentimental guardians, but threshold intelligence. You are the power. The power is within you. And so oftentimes when we're using these words, sharing this knowledge, and the words sometimes put us outside of ourselves, this strength, power, even the word power. But this power is within you as intelligence, as courses of action, as your higher soul, your avatar of intelligence, being manifested as a fiery, animating spirit within you, the human. These external hierarchies are not granting power, they're regulating flow of this current within you, which is yours as birthright. And so, but this tradition with these words, these names, equally could be achieved through whatever you decide upon emotionally you resonate with. That is the power of your mind. That is the power for you to be firm in your walk, to arise in strength. And your creation of your world is not gentle, it is just simply decisive. That's why, I shared the story of being accosted, getting my mail one day about, well, what do I do all day, by a total stranger, really, just somebody who happens to live where I live. And, when you live in a community like where I live, people are nosy. And there's also other things going on where they have to figure you out because of their own enterprise. When you're a new player on the block and you don't associate with anybody, imaginations run wild. And so, because I know what my will is, what my purpose is, I am decisive. I use discernment. I am in the kingdom of heaven within. Those who have been determined, God puts people in your path when it is meant, when your higher self, and when I say God, I'm actually talking about your higher self, because the plasmatic energies of creation are within us all. Now, there are people who are they're going to be more of the same. That is the danger of tradition, is that people get caught up in the collective. You can You can ride the currents of the collective. You can use their collective energies and such, but don't get caught up in it unless that is your higher purpose's will. But the sequential incarnations that people have, it's always up to their own decisiveness if that's what they choose. But if you are looking to remain autonomous, if you are looking to your future beyond the physical, because that is also another mistake, is people get too comfortable in this reality, this physical reality. And ultimately, we're going to leave this. You're going to leave your body, unless you're a transhumanist and all that. But that is another trap, another video. But anyway, this was just a message to be shared with the power of your mind and tradition versus kind of making up your own system. Anyway, have a good day, folks.